I'm going to speak about the relationship between intuition and spiritual leadership, and what is that relationship, and is there one? What are the correlations between stepping into your intuition and stepping into your spiritual leadership? And I'm going to tell you what I think about that, because to me, you know, the work of my life, the work of the Institute, is to train women as spiritual leaders. And we do that primarily through the development of intuition. So clearly, I see that there is a correlation between these things. But I realized I hadn't sort of broken it down. I haven't spent time before talking about why intuition matters to a spiritual leader. And whilst some of the things might seem really obvious, I think there's a deeper connection between these two things that I would love to talk about today. So let's jump into that. When we open or make that decision to develop our intuition, we can often begin at a place where we're just thinking, how will I get some more power for myself, or how will I get better at serving other people through readings, or whatever other ways that you might work with your intuition, maybe as a coach, maybe as a mentor. But we're often seeing it as a kind of compartmentalized thing. We're not seeing it as part of a holistic return to love or holiness. We're seeing it as another kind of skill that we can develop so we're better at doing something. And that is completely fine as a starting point. But what happens, as we know, when we go on the journey of awakening our intuition, is that the thing that brought us into that will very rarely be the thing that keeps us going. So what I mean by that is that we will start out on this life, perhaps we want to increase our intuition because we want more success. Maybe we want more clients. Maybe we want to have more intuitive hits around how to manifest more stuff. Or maybe we feel like, you know, if we had more intuition, we'd be more in demand. And you know, we're looking at it very much as a strategy of growing our current human paradigm. What happens, though, as an inevitable side effect or benefit of awakening our intuition, is that we actually discover something. We discover within us a heart-centered living, because intuition is a heart-brain activity, and we start to crack open our sacred heart. We merge or anchor into the cathedral of our heart, and suddenly all of the things that we thought we were showing up to this training our intuition, increasing our intuition for, sort of become obsolete. They no longer matter. We are inevitably going to get better at whatever we do with an increased intuition. But what happens when we step into committing to our intuition is that everything begins to alter about what we consider the purpose of our life to be. And so we stop thinking of service as when I get paid, or how I get paid, or you know, how I get to make money out of my spiritual path. And we start thinking about service as every breath that I take wherein I am congruent and living in that flow state that occurs when the infinite intelligence of the cosmos is able to be received by me, when I have surrendered personal doubt, when I have put down the weariness of my own self-obsession of trying to make myself individually better so that more people will like me, approve of me, buy my thing. And I am now constantly in communion with that greater part of myself. And I am willing to see that that is the most powerful act of service that there is, because my energy becomes a scaffold, a paradigm in which other people can step into their own Christed heart. You can think of the Christed heart, if you don't use that terminology, as that initiation into the heart chakra, the cathedral of the heart. So we must be very careful if we go down this path of choosing to open to our intuition, because there is a very good chance that the life we thought we wanted for ourselves is going to fall away or become secondary to this bigger, deeper part of us. How does that relate then to spiritual leadership? Because of course that's what we're talking about here today. Well, if you have gone towards activating your intuition with that purity of purpose, of really wanting to see how much bigger your service can be, then you are already the spiritual leader, because you are stepping into the pursuit of intuition in a way that most people will never do. Most people will, as I said, go at it as a trinket and a superstition of the new age, as another tool, another thing that they can activate in order to get more of this or more of that. But you may have begun at that point, but you have recognized very quickly that the pursuit of your intuition makes you different, unique, and really very unusual in the current spiritual climate, which is a very superficial spiritual climate. The culture that we have built around spirituality is built on a faulty foundation. So it's often about peddling tricks of the trade, ways to get people interested in you or your product. It's about individual gain rather than collective benefit. And for those of you who walk towards your intuition and quickly recognize that you're going to be altered by this, and you still keep going, even though you're going to have to sacrifice your littleness, your pettiness, you're going to have to put down your own insecurities and doubts, you still go there, you still walk the path, you stay the course towards your own divine nature. And that is a spiritual leader. That you know things are going to get difficult and uncomfortable for a while because the human paradigm will no longer work. You've awakened your sacred heart through pursuit of your intuition, and you are now standing in what can oftentimes feel like a very lonely space because so few people are pursuing their soul nature or their spiritual leadership or their intuition from that paradigm. And I've written about this elsewhere, and I'll share the link to it, that spiritual leadership will often have you feeling completely out of your comfort zone. But I want to assure you that that's actually where the gold is. That's how you know that you're actually going in the right direction. Because you are no longer just trying to gain benefit for your individual life, you're working for the collective greater good. And we can still be very successful, we can still be very abundant, we can still have beautiful, healthy relationships. In fact, we'll have better relationships as a result of this. But there will be a period of discomfort where we are disoriented, where we go through growing pains, where our perception of what we thought we wanted with this life is dismantled. And we step into recognizing that regardless of what other people think of us, this is the only path that we can take. And that is spiritual leadership, to stay that course and to be unafraid. Can we get there without turning on our intuition? I don't think so. I think they're one and the same, because intuition, remember, is simply the language of the soul. It's the way that the infinite communicates or communes with us. So how would it be possible to step into that spiritual leadership where you put down your feelings of low self-worth and recognize that you are the infinite, which is a precursor to both intuition and spiritual leadership, if you're not willing to have a really robust, active communion or communication hotline with that infinite one mind? So the two things happen mutually. They happen as one, but we may think we're after one or the other, and then inevitably we notice that stepping into our spiritual leadership opens us to that support from the infinite. It's such an important connection, because we are in the age where the world needs its spiritual leaders. It needs those who are willing to step out of their comfort zone in the name of faith, to be active and to pursue that faith without fear, and to pursue that life without looking for the comforts and distractions of the spiritual trinkets and superstitions, but to be really committed to growing into or creating the new paradigm in which others can enter. So we are setting up an energetic scaffold for others to step into it. We pave the way, and it will be much easier for them as a result of our dedication and commitment for the whole world to awaken. We do not need 7 billion people to wake up. We simply need to reach a tipping point. And when I train the women in the third level, I train them to be unafraid of their power to create global change. And when you begin to be initiated into that truth about yourself, it can be quite disorienting and quite scary, because we are fed this story that we are insignificant, that we're small, that we don't have superpowers, and yet we actually do. We are all of the things that we have been led to believe we are not. Our capacity to change the world starts and ends with our willingness to be unafraid of change. That's really where it is that we need to go, because when you turn up to intuition, if you enroll, for example, in the Initiate program that I'm running next month, you are going to, yes, increase your intuition, but what's really going to happen is that you are going to put down your littleness and you're going to start to see your own glory. And most of us spend our lives hiding from that because we do not know what to do with that kind of truth, that kind of power. But the reason why the Initiate program is such a foundational and important training that everybody who comes into the Institute has to do, you can't go into the 3rd level, you can't go into the postgrad program without having done it, is because it's the foundation that allows us to grow a healthy and robust, deep spirituality. It's the counter to the superficial spirituality of our age. And so when we have this classic ancient spiritual wisdom at our foundation, at our core, we're going to be able to build something truly magnificent, and our service will change the world. It won't be a casual thing. So that's and committing and investing in that is the hallmark of a spiritual leader, because that's how we show our willingness to be continually humble. Spiritual leadership is not about power in and of itself. It's about our willingness to accept that the only power we have is the power to know that we are God. And that, of course, is a great lesson in humility. And I'll talk about the relationship, the stages of power that we go through when we begin on this spiritual journey, and how unfortunately many people get stuck in a kind of spiritual narcissism because we don't understand that true spiritual power is built through humility, not through gaining and attaining stuff in the dream for ourselves, whether that's more clients or more students or more followers. Those things are not what signify the spiritual leader. It's that absolute willingness to be humble in the face of the truth that I am everything and I am nothing. So I feel like that's it. I feel like that's all I want to share with you today. I'm very, very excited that the Initiate program is open for the next fully guided live round. The cart closes on the 31st of August. This is a program for spiritual leaders, and it sort of doesn't matter where you are on that path, whether you consider yourself a spiritual leader or whether you are not even yet willing to admit that that is the truth of yourself. This program will support you to go into that truth fearlessly and to give you the foundation that allows you to build a deep spirituality. It's the antidote, as I said, to that superficial spirituality, that spiritual narcissism that allows us to think that it allows us to play God rather than to be God, and I'll talk about what that means in another live, because that's a very significant difference. But that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. It's such a delight to be here with you. I'm going to go maybe get back in that pool because I'm really sweaty just from sitting outside for 20 minutes or so. Have a glorious day wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all very soon. Mwah.